Welcome to the Future Strong podcast. Today, we're embarking on, a deeply moving exploration. We're looking at profound human experience, all through the powerful lens of poetry. Specifically, we're delving into Childbearers of the World, What Remains, a really remarkable poem by Rachana. And this isn't just, a collection of verses. It's an unflinching look at some of life's toughest truths. It weaves together these central themes: loneliness, loss, survival, and inheritance. Heavy stuff.
It really is. And our mission today for this discussion is to carefully pull out the most potent nuggets of, knowledge and insight from this poem. We want to connect its raw emotions, its sharp observations, to those universal human experiences, hopefully helping you, the listener, understand what truly resonates in the powerful themes Rachana presents. It's about seeing how these words don't just describe feelings, they actually reveal some fundamental truths about being human.
Okay, let's unpack this then. The poem, it immediately confronts us with some difficult truths right from the start. About early life, parental figures, it sets this stark, almost unsettling tone. It opens with these lines, quite striking. Distracted mothers create loneliness, those children celebrate uncertainty, and out of the imperfect first steps, they quickly learn no love is earnest. Wow. What profound implications do these lines suggest about a child's foundational understanding of the world? And this idea of celebrating uncertainty, what does that really look like?
Well, those lines just immediately dismantle any sort of idealized notion of childhood innocence, don't they?
Yeah.
They suggest that right from the very first steps, a child might be learning about the unreliability of connection, especially love. And that phrase, celebrate uncertainty, it's so potent. It's not genuine celebration, of course. It's more like a profound, almost desperate adaptation, a coping mechanism, like a protective shell formed when that foundational trust just isn't there. So instead of expecting stability, these children are sort of forced to find a strange comfort in the unpredictable. It's a dangerous kind of self-reliance, really, born out of necessity.
So it's not resilience in a positive way, but maybe more like a fundamental rewiring, a scar that shapes their whole emotional architecture.
Exactly. That's a good way to put it. The poem suggests this isn't just a passing feeling. It's a deep structural shift in how they see the world, how they navigate relationships later on. If love isn't earnest, if mothers are distracted, well, then the blueprint for connection is fundamentally altered.
Right.
And that can lead to a lifelong pattern of guardedness, maybe an inability to fully trust, always searching for self-sufficiency, even when connection is what they desperately need. It's like an internal inheritance of emotional skepticism, you could say.
Okay. From those foundational cracks in childhood, the poem then plunges us into something even more devastating, this immense, irrevocable loss that defines so much of human experience. It speaks of fathers crying when planes disappear and the heartbreaking reality that, quote, nothing brings back the touch. She became a part of the earth and dust.
How does the poem portray the finality, the universality of that kind of loss? What does it show about how we collectively respond?
The imagery there is just incredibly powerful. It conveys this collective, almost desperate grief. The poem mentions worlds unite to search the heavens and oceans, right? That speaks to that universal human impulse. We desperately search. We hold on to hope against all odds. And yet it ultimately highlights our profound powerlessness against the finality of death.
And that phrase, she became a part of the earth and dust.
It's such a stark, almost visceral reminder of the body's return to the elements. The nugget of insight here, I think, is that this raw, unflinching depiction challenges how society often tries to sanitize death. It forces you to confront that physical finality, which, in its starkness, paradoxically elevates the enduring power of memory, the void left behind. It's just unadorned truth about mortality.
And then the poem gets even more poignant. It addresses child loss, which, for many is the most unimaginable grief. It has some lines that are just heart-wrenching. A mother holds her baby boy close. He had meant 1,000 heartbeats. Life inside the womb was longer than on earth. Being still alive is no good than being stillborn. And then the father's words at the funeral. If you think bearing a child is difficult, think again. This was our second and only remaining child.
These convey such extreme emotional states. And that line, only untimely deaths make most of us remarkable, it's jarring. What's Rachana tapping into there? What truth?
Yeah, this section, it really forces us to confront just an unfathomable depth of sorrow. The lines about the baby, life inside the womb longer than on earth. It explores a grief so immense it questions the very value of survival. Being still alive is no good than being stillborn. It articulates a despair many might feel, but rarely, voice.
Right.
Where existence without that child feels like a burden, not a gift. And the father's words, losing a second and only remaining child. It just paints a picture of repeated tragedy that pushes endurance past any recognizable boundary.
Yeah.
It's almost unbearable to contemplate.
It really is.
And as for that jarring line, only untimely deaths make most of us remarkable. It's a profound, maybe even cynical observation about how society perceives us. It suggests that in a world often focused on achievement, superficial success, sometimes it's the sheer scale of our suffering or the profound impact of an unexpected tragic loss that truly brings us into sharp focus for others. It implies that extraordinary sorrow, rather than maybe extraordinary living, can paradoxically make someone remarkable in the public eye. It's a bleak commentary, isn't it, on how we often only recognize life's fragility in its absence, and how tragedy can, in a dark way, almost define a legacy. The insight is about that uncomfortable truth, how the weight of extreme sorrow can, perversely, elevate someone's perceived significance.
And as if the pain of loss wasn't enough, the narrative then takes this stark turn to economic hardship. Another layer of survival, it says. It's a conscious choice a hungry mother makes. Poverty stays in the race. As she trades her flesh for some meat and bread, honor and soul are left in the crumbs. What does this reveal about the choices people face in dire circumstances? What's left when honor and soul become just crumbs?
Yeah, what's fascinating here is the poem's raw depiction of those desperate, impossible choices forced by poverty. It's not just hunger, it's a conscious choice. It emphasizes this isn't an accident. It's a deliberate, agonizing decision, where basic survival requires this painful, humiliating sacrifice of honor and soul. And that phrase, left in the crumbs, it powerfully conveys how utterly little remains of dignity, self-respect, inner spirit after such a devastating trade. The nugget here, I think, is that the poem isn't just describing poverty as like a lack of resources. It's portraying it as an active, soul-crushing force, something that systematically strips individuals of their intrinsic worth.
Yeah.
It highlights the psychological, the spiritual degradation that happens when survival becomes the only metric. And this connects to broader societal issues, right? Revealing how systemic poverty can leave people feeling like mere husks, sacrificing everything meaningful just to exist. The poem really asks us to consider what kind of life is left when the very essence of your personhood is bartered away for basic sustenance.
And there are also these incredibly unsettling lines suggesting a different kind of loss, an insidious one, often hidden. Walls hide happiness and love. A few betray memories made in the dark. When the father enters the bedroom, a child loses what's sacred to him. This paints such a profoundly disturbing picture. Innocence shattered from within.
Oh, absolutely. Those lines powerfully evoke a sense of hidden trauma, a violation within what should be a child's sanctuary, their home, their bedroom, their sense of safety, the idea of betrayed memories. It suggests this twisting of trust, a loss of innocence, not from an external threat, but from within the family unit itself.
Yeah.
By someone who should be a protector.
Right.
When a child loses what's sacred to him, it's this profound internal fracturing. It impacts their fundamental sense of safety, their understanding of love and trust, potentially their ability to form secure attachments later on. The nugget here is the poem's deep dive into this concept of a violated inheritance. I mean, beyond material things, children inherit a sense of security, love, a worldview from their caregivers. These lines show how that sacred psychological inheritance can be just irrevocably tainted, leading to this deep personal kind of loss that perhaps never fully heals. It's a quiet catastrophe, devastating because it happens in that supposed sanctuary of home. Well, Child Bearers of the World, What Remains is just an incredibly powerful poem. It offers this unflinching depiction of the varied, profound forms of suffering and loss that shape human experience, particularly in childhood. And understanding these deep emotional landscapes, I think it can significantly deepen our compassion for others, especially for those whose early foundations were, well, fractured. It also compels us to reflect on our own roles, maybe, in building more resilient communities, better support systems for the next generation. It really shows us the deep, lasting impact of both external circumstances, like poverty, and those internal traumas that happen within the family fabric.
Yeah. This powerful poem, it really challenges us to look beyond the surface, beyond the happiness and security we often project. It implicitly asks us, in what ways do our environments, our choices, conscious and unconscious and unforeseen tragedies, personal or collective, how do they imprint themselves upon the next generation? And how can truly understanding the weight of that kind of inheritance shape our approach to fostering genuine strength and resilience in ourselves and critically in those we raise? Thank you for tuning into this segment of the Future Strong podcast.